Welcome to the Startup Grind.
All right, Startup Grind actually in Kalamazoo was started in October, so this is our third interview. We interviewed Jack Aarons, who's a venture capitalist in town, for the first interview. The second interview was actually with Charles Perky with Abraxas, and tonight we have Kevin Romeo with Rhino Media. Startup Grind is actually a bigger group. It has over 50 cities. It was started in Silicon Valley by Derek Anderson and a couple of others, like Francisco Cruz. And actually it's been going for about 3 years. And we actually have the global Startup Grinds that will come up next week out in Silicon Valley. So you have this thing kind of taken off to where it's about educating, inspiring, and connecting. So you actually have the food and mingling early on. We'll have the fireside interview with Kevin.
Where's the fire?
I forgot to bring that. We had the cold outside, right?
Yeah. Sure. Okay.
So the fireside would be to make him relax. So it takes about 10 or 15 minutes to get into it. And then after that, Kevin will start to really jive, right? Warm up?
Yeah. I generally try to give a caveat to any time somebody listens to me talk. The first 15 minutes is super awkward and a lot of mumbling and run-on sentences. And then once about halfway through, people start to warm up to me, and by the end, people like me. So stay with me. See, just like that. That was awful. The whole thing.
So the goal here, right, is actually to have entrepreneurs that are local to talk about their history, their story, about where they've come from, where they envision Kalamazoo going forward, and then learning from that. We'll spend about 30 to 45 minutes where I'll actually talk to them, ask questions, and then open it up to you all for about 15 or 20 minutes. So it'll be about an hour session, and afterwards Kevin will hang out and answer other questions that you want. Kevin is actually with Rhino Media. He actually co-founded it in 2010, so you're 4+ years old, and he actually is a Western grad and graduated in 2006.
Dude, you got it.
All right, so he's going to kind of talk about where he came from childhood all the way to now. He's actually gotten a lot of notoriety. Most people know the Michigan Beer film, which was actually basically delivered to the screen in October, November.
We had our September showing was the initial date in Kalamazoo, and then took a few weeks to kind of tweak the dials on the film, and then we started doing other showings. So, yes.
Very good. So we'll lead into that, but first of all, okay, I want to find out, Kevin, what has gotten you to Rhino Media today? What's the story behind Rhino?
Are we starting?
You're starting.
That's it? Okay. Let me put the coffee down. How's everything look on camera, guys? Make me look thin? All right.
Gorgeous.
Can you repeat the question?
What has gotten you to this point, Kevin? What's your story, your background?
Just, okay. So, met up with John the other day, and we kind of talked through some of this stuff, so hopefully I stay somewhat on point. So I'll just kind of do a brief version of my history if I can, if that provides some good context. Not that it's that exciting, but just so you can kind of know who I am. Yeah, so I grew up in a small town, kind of a rural lifestyle. I didn't necessarily live on a farm, but I had like horses and stuff. I don't know what to call it. I had like a ranch. I lived on a ranch. So that was kind of that, and I was always a little bit of a black sheep. I was a pretty good kid for the most part. Growing up, I was kind of naturally a little bit bright when I was a kid, and then as I got older, I just got worse and worse grades. I was never that bad, but I think when I look back on it, it's kind of cool that I can identify what really went wrong. And it was like I became kind of prideful as I got older, like people do sometimes. But so I was naturally kind of bright, but then as I got into high school, like I never wanted to admit that I needed help, basically, or like would ask the teacher for anything. I just thought, I'm too smart for that. I don't care if my grades are slipping. I'd justify it in some way. So anyway, that's just good for me, kind of therapeutic why that went down south. after high school, I kind of just fell into going to Western, like I think a lot of people do. Not to knock Western, I'm a fan of Western, but I think in this area a lot of people kind of default to Western. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a lot of skills like in areas that basically I could never hope to find a job, was my mindset. So I was kind of good at baseball and some athletic stuff, but I was not good enough to go pitch for the Tigers, which was my pipe dream. And then I was also pretty good at art and like painting and drawing and things like that. But I thought you could really only be an art teacher if that's what you do, and I always thought art teachers were super weird. So that was out. And then the other one was I was really into music, and I was pretty good at music. I thought I had a good like kind of understanding socially of what made music tick for people and whatnot. But I was an average trumpet player, average guitar player, average bass. I just kind of fiddled with stuff. So, but I liked all those things, and I had no hard skills. My dad was a really wonderful man. He was a really loving father, but he was like completely not the type of guy who could fix anything or like show me how to work on cars. So I grew up not really knowing anything of those typical man skills, and I'm still not that good at that stuff either. So just a really kind of like the average kid that didn't have a lot of anything to really bank on. My parents didn't push me in any one direction. So as I got to college, I just started finding my way, like a lot of people kind of start swimming. Thought about teaching, and I took a few semesters doing like physical education. To me, that started to become kind of a dead end because I just didn't like the idea of having a ceiling or feeling like that's really all I can do is be a teacher. Not that that's not a wonderful thing, but I have this thing where I just didn't want to be constricted, and for whatever it's worth, I didn't like that. So I fell into business because I thought that would give me the most opportunities. It won't really cage me in. I can kind of do whatever. Seems like that's something where a guy like me with not a lot of tangible skills could do something. So yeah. Should I stop or do? I'm supposed to get to Rhino.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's a big first question.
Since actually you and I talked last week.
Hyperventilating. No, I'm just kidding. All right.
Breathe, right?
Yep. There's people here, man. All right.
Close your eyes, all right? Envision where you want to be right now.
Anywhere else. I'm just joking. I'm just kidding. Sorry.
So you and I talked, and basically, what you're leading to is, you wanted skills, but you didn't necessarily have them growing up, correct?
Did you say Skittles?
Skills, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wanted Skittles. Skills. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
So you actually went to Western. You ended up graduating 4 years?
No, 5. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So now, and it's in management by default?
Yeah. I can actually talk about that a little bit. So I fell into business, but then for me, management kind of seemed like a good. It's kind of crazy. It's silly how these little life things play in your life, but my whole life I was a big Tigers fan, and I was they were terrible my whole life. And I was like, all these players came through, and I was a big fan, and I'd go to the games. My mom would take me to spring training even, and we'd go see them and stuff, and they were always like the worst team in the majors. And then in college, as a miracle happened is they started winning, like my junior year or something. It was like when Pudge Rodriguez came and Kenny Rogers and all that stuff, and all of a sudden they were going to the World Series, and Jim Leland was a big deal, and it was like a paradigm shift in my life. And I started reading about Jim Leland because I was like, why is it he's taking the team? What is it about his managerial style that's helping the team? And obviously other things played a factor, but I thought that's interesting. And I read a lot about how Jim Leland's managerial style was very much that he had if you're into StrengthsFinder, he was like individualization, and he was good at pulling out everyone's individual skills and characteristics and traits that make them unique, and he played on that really well. Like he didn't treat everyone the same. Like some coaches are like, my way or the highway, you do it this way, this is the system, and there's merits to both, but so I was really intrigued by Jim Leland. I thought that's cool because I feel like that's kind of how I am. Like I see people as different and unique, and like I see how that's a good managerial style, and it kind of got me thinking about management. You know what I mean? Not that greatly influenced my decisions, but that was like kind of a person I looked to as somebody I could admire the way that they handled that type of duty. So
have you read the book Moneyball?
I watched the movie.
Okay. So did you like the movie?
I like the movie.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's baseball, and that's management, that's numbers.
Yep.
Right? How do you do with numbers?
I don't like numbers. I'm not a big numbers guy. I'm an art guy. I'm not a science guy as much. I have an insecurity that I want to be a numbers guy, but I'm just not that much. Rhino's doing well. We pay our bills. We're growing, but I don't sit there and
Play with numbers.
go obsessive about numbers. Yeah. So
You can hire someone for that, right?
yeah, that's what I did.
Now, you graduate from Western,
hmm
and you go into banking.
I
That's
did.
numbers, right?
Yep. That was sales,
Okay.
but yeah,
So, but people think banking is numbers, right?
I think they do.
So why did you go to banking?
Oh, okay. I got you. You know, I knew you're doing. Okay. So, this is a good interviewer. At the end of college, I'll go into my personal life a little bit too to kind of weave through this. But at the end of my college time, and just to give some context of time frame, this is when Facebook was coming out and it was new. So 05. Like he said, graduated in 06. But at the end of college, I started dating a girl, and we ended up getting serious. And I got married before I graduated college, which some people do and some people don't. Kind of rare. Felt rare when I was doing it. But anyway, at the time, I got out of college, and she didn't have a great job. It was an okay job. But I graduated, and there was a pressure to get a job right away. And what I learned later is that, or what I realized through that is that it forced me to make a decision I probably wouldn't have made. It's kind of like it cornered me into making a decision that I didn't feel like was right, but it's kind of like I had to do it for my family. So at the time it was a noble cause. I had to do it. But looking back, a big part of who I am is I always just look at every situation as a learning opportunity. I try not to ever complain about anything, or I just try to think through why this is good for me, or what I can take away from this. And my takeaway from that was that when you don't have enough options because of situations that you're in, sometimes you can make poor decisions or untimely decisions. And I liken that to having a lot of debt. It's like when you have debt, you have to make decisions that you wouldn't make otherwise if you had the freedom to have a wider variety of decisions. So that's kind of a big part of who I am. But do you want me to keep going? Okay, I'll just keep it going. So, I don't make a big deal of this. You won't hear me tell this to a ton of people, but I'm not married to that girl anymore. It didn't end well. Just for you guys to know, on my integrity's sake, I didn't leave her or anything. She actually ended it and blah, blah, blah. Not at all here to hash through that, but I just wanted to say that for me, I value marriage tremendously. I'm married now. My wife is a fantastic woman. So,
And a newborn, too.
and I have a newborn baby. My wife is not a newborn. I have a newborn baby. My wife is an absolute gem. I treasure her. She's fantastic, and my baby's awesome. So that's that. And I don't want to just nutshell that, but I only say that she left me. My first wife left me because I believe in the value of marriage. I believe in integrity. I didn't end marriage. I don't, you know what I'm saying? So just to put that out there. So anyway, I stayed at the bank job for a little bit. And when I say bank job, I'll just bare my soul right now. It was a telemarketing job. And the crazy thing about it was, and I think like half of Kalamazoo's worked at the call center on 9th Street at some point, so whatever. But I've been there with a job you hate, probably to the most degree, because I think when you go see friends and stuff, Dan's looking at me because he's had jobs he hated too. We've talked about it. But, when you go see friends you haven't seen in a while, and they're like, how's it going? I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk. So what are you doing these days? I'm working at a bank. What do you do? I'm like, I gotta go. That's what it's like. So if you guys are, I can connect with you if you hate your job. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, so I was working that job, and after things crumbled apart with my marriage there, I kept the job for a little bit. I stayed strong in it. I was making pretty good money at the time, so I was like, I can roll with this. I have a good influence here with some of these people. Like, I'm making good relationships in here to some degree. And I kept a good head on my shoulders. So it was good, but I ended up going, you know what? No, I hate this job. I'm not going to stay here anymore. I don't have any reason to be here anymore. I got to leave. So I saved up enough money to have a few months of floating cash, and then I quit. And so after that, I had a long road. So this is where John and I were talking. There's a gap of time after I graduated college, quit that job, up until about 2010 when Rhino started, where I really I kept doing this, and it's kind of like that thing where at the time I thought there was like a low point, and I thought, man, this sucks. I don't think it's going to get worse, and it get worse, and things just kind of going like that. So in that time, I didn't have any job that was like a degree job or anything like that. I had no connections, and that kind of goes back to me being raised on a farm in a small town. My mom delivered mail for a living. My dad, most of my life when I was a kid, was a grocery store clerk. So I had zero connections in life, for the most part. So it was like I felt like when I got out of college, I had the rug pulled out. Is that the phrase? Where you're like, holy crap, there's nothing here. I don't know anyone. I got to go find a job somehow. And I got kind of a chip on my shoulder because it felt like a lot of people from Western. It's like people from the East Side come over, they come here and party, they go back home, they got a job at Quicken Loans, like that. And I was like, I don't have any connections. I don't know anyone. I don't have any, there's no friends of networks of anyone I can glean on. So, and I'm not trying to say oh, I'm a self-made man or trying to puff that up in any way, but I'm just saying that was a hard lesson to learn is you have to just go out and start going after what you want to do. So,
so let's talk about planning.
Yep.
Right. So, how much planning did you go into when you left the banking job? How much planning did you go into when you end up talking about going to graduate and figure out the banking job in the first place? And then how much planning did you put into starting Rhino?
I didn't put a lot of planning into a lot of those things. Is that what you? Okay. Yeah, I didn't. I was like, I don't know if I said I did before, but I didn't. So really it was like I quit that bank job just thinking I'll find another job somehow. But I didn't have a lot of money, so I went back living at home. I had been renting a house, and whatever. So kind of just went after it. And I worked a few jobs that were really rough. Actually, the first job I had after the bank thing was a guy I knew through like a basketball, like a church thing. We had a concrete company, and he was a terrible business owner. I hope he doesn't watch this video. He's a nice guy. I appreciated that he gave me a job at the time, but it was just a low-paying concrete laborer type thing. And I thought this would be good. I could do some manual labor for a while and clear my head. But I hope he never watches this recording. But he was.
We'll cut it out, right? We'll cut that part out.
No, we'll leave it in. So, it seemed like every job we went to, I felt the weight of the customer already not liking him. And I felt like I'm in the middle. I'm like, I don't know this guy. I'm not part of this. I don't want to be a part of this. So, and it felt like every job we finished, there was miscommunications and unclear expectations, and you didn't do this right, and blah, blah, blah. And the last project I ever did for him was somebody hired him to tile their deck or something like that. And like I said, I'm not a handy guy. I said that earlier. And he just hired me to do it, and I'd never done it before. And he just showed me how to do a couple of them and left for the week, and I had to do it. And so that was really scary, and the guy was mad about that, and he's mad at me, and I'm like, I don't know. I just got told to do this, man, so leave me alone. But anyway, that job was cool because I was able to observe someone who I thought, this is not how I'd run a small business. I don't know how I'd run a small business exactly, but this is wrong. And he'd call people on the phone and leave messages that were just rambly and didn't make any sense, and it was like, they can't understand you even when you're talking like that. So he had kind of a southern accent too, and it just was hard to listen to him.
So you had the concrete job?
Yeah.
And then you actually learned from that, right?
I learned what not to do, basically.
But then you went on to landscaping.
Yep. And so then this guy who was actually he was like a part-time pastor at this church I was going to, and he also owned this landscape design company. It was a really well-regarded landscape design company. His work was fantastic, very high-end. He didn't do lawn mowing or anything like that. He just did new landscape design and installation stuff. So I got to work for him. He offered me a job, and I was like, cool, this will be an interesting opportunity. And like the first day on the job, I could immediately see all these fantastic displays of ways that he was a much better business owner, much more respectful and respectable, a much better communicator, and it was like night and day difference, even though they're kind of in the same industry to some degree. And I felt so much better about life. I was like, I can follow this guy. He's a good management guy. He's a good leader. And I just considered it, you know what? I don't want to do landscape design, but I do want to do business ownership at some point. I'm just going to consider this like a mentorship, and I'm going to work my butt off for this guy because he's a great guy. So I learned a ton from him about just client expectations, being very clear with your communication, being patient with people, and not assuming the worst, and just like having that attitude of service and not an attitude of trying to get the most money you can and get the hell out of there. Like that was like what the other guy was all the time. So, and again, the guy's not a bad guy, but he's a bad business owner. So,
So you have the concrete.
I'm not even to Rhino yet.
That's right. We'll get there. So what happens is these are learning moments, and
Yep.
actually we'll talk about how you brought them into Rhino's, right?
Yep.
So you basically go on to teaching, correct?
Oh yeah.
So you go on to teaching.
Sorry.
And
I was thinking about how you dropped those papers and if I should help you, but I
no,
got.
you're good. I'll get them.
Okay.
So.
Sorry.
But the teaching aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got bad management. We have good management.
Yep.
Now let's go and talk about the teaching.
Okay, so the landscape job was great for a few seasons of life kind of thing. I worked for them in the summers, and it was nice. And then I'd have the winter, and I didn't really have anything going on. And I think a lot of people, when they get out of college, they fall back on substitute teaching, and I definitely did that. Which, again, I took it as a good opportunity. Although the pay rate for a day of substitute teaching is $66, so even if I worked 5 days a week, it was like very little money. Especially when you have a college degree, and there's always that thing in the back of your mind, like, you have a degree, why are you substitute teaching? What else can you be doing with your time? But anyway, so I took that as an opportunity to grow my ability to win over an audience, which is really hard. I mean, I basically looked at it like, every day I'm going to come in, and I can't think of a harder to impress crowd than a bunch of 9th graders or 10th graders, and I have 7 or 6 hours where they're going to cycle through, and it's a whole new class in 48 minutes or whatever, and worst situation you can ever be in to have people like or respect you as being a substitute teacher. So I thought, if I can get really good at this and get people to like me in this little bit of time I have, there's no way I can't like work over a crowd in any situation and just make friends. And it ended up going really good. I actually really started to like substitute teaching. It was kind of a thing though. I kind of had this thing like God was playing tricks on me and like toying with my emotions, because I got offered 3 different jobs while teaching, substitute teaching, and I couldn't take them. Although I was desperate for a real job, but I couldn't take it because I wasn't certified as a teacher. And they're like, "You're really good. Like, we want to hire you. Can you be a teacher here?" And I'm like, "No. Screw you." So anyway, it was just a great opportunity for me to learn and grow again and say, you know what? Hey, this is where I am in life right now. I'm going to make the best of it, and I'm going to connect with these kids and impact their lives in a positive way. And so we'd always get off subject, and I didn't want to be that sub who was just completely negligent for the teacher's instructions either, so I'd make sure I did what I had to do, but I'd also open up a lot of dialogue. Kids love to talk to me about whatever. I mean, and of course, when they're talking about that stuff, they're not working on their schoolwork. But I thought this is a good opportunity to talk to them about like credit card debt and drug use and just real stuff that they want to know about. And I'd say, yeah, I'd give them some advice and stuff. And now it's cool because, I mean, ask my wife, ask anybody. We go out to dinner, Chin Chin in Matawan. I did a lot of subbing in Matawan. All the waitresses and waiters know me, and they're Miss Romeo. Like every time, they're so excited to see me. I see bus boys that are bellies and waiters at all these little restaurants, and it's everywhere I go. They're like, "Dude, you were the best sub ever." And the cool thing was like the kids liked me. Well, the teachers always really liked me too, so it wasn't just like me letting the kids clown around or whatever. So
there's your network right there.
Yep. Who are you?
Still in high school.
Huh?
Still in high school.
Oh, you're a high schooler?
Still unimpressed.
Oh, I was gonna say, were you one of them? All right, cool.
So we're not to Rhino yet,
Nope.
all right?
Nope.
But we're almost there.
Almost
this
there.
goes back to now the last piece of the puzzle, and that's actually KVCC, right?
Yeah. Well, kind of. The timing's a little jacked up. I went back to school after college, after the divorce. I went back to school because I thought I want to tap into my artistic side of things. I always wanted to do that, and I started understanding that the Center for New Media teaches careers in things like graphic design and photography and animations and stuff. So I was like, I'm going to go back to school for that and add that on to my bachelor's, and which was kind of cool because at the time some of the KVCC teachers were like, you have a really great combo. Like, I don't think you know this yet, but the fact that you're like business trained or whatever, and you're going to go do this kind of, you have a real leg up that a lot of these art kids are never going to understand. And it's kind of cool to see that now, because now Rhino's like a thriving kind of business just on the street from KVCC, where I was trying to figure out my life kind of thing. So, but again, I didn't actually go through with taking all the classes at KVCC because I didn't want to spend money I didn't have, and I wasn't going to take on debt because I had a bunch of student loan debt, and I was at that point in my life, which I still am, just vehemently opposed to taking on more debt in an effort to get that. So, so anyway, I quit that, but I started taking photography more seriously because I did it a lot as a kid, and like just slowly get into like graphic design, which I'm not a good graphic designer really, but I'm not trained as a graphic. I mean, apologizing to anyone that's a graphic designer here because I'm not, but I generally have a good eye for what's socially relevant or what might connect with a crowd kind of thing. But I'm not the guy to
What
do
about
that.
the guitar playing on the stage at the premiere?
So that was dumb. At the beer film premiere we did, I had, in an effort to gain more sponsorship money, I had said, I'll sing your name of your business in a song. It'll be fun. And I'd sing around. I played a lot of gigs and stuff, so I was like, that should be no problem. And but then the couple weeks coming up to it, I was like, why did I mean, I really was sweating. Like, this was dumb. This is going to be a laughing stock. Why did I say I was going to do that? But I ended up saying, I'm going to have my buddy Colin complete, because we play a lot of gigs in the past. And so him coming up in there helped me, and I had to write this song. And I thought it came out pretty good, actually. It ended up being kind of fun. People clapped a lot. So that it was
They
nice.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
You won
So-
over the audience there.
I thought so. I thought people loved it. I mean, whatever. If you didn't love it, get out of here.
All right, so you have this design skills now. Why start Rhino Media, and what is Rhino Media?
Okay, so all right. At this point, I can pretty much get to when we started Rhino. Lowest point in my life. I don't want to leave this one little part out. Again, having a college degree, there's not too many jobs that are obvious to the average person trying to find jobs. You know what I'm saying? Do you want me to point at the camera or anything? Here, take it. I'll do it. Okay, I'm just kidding. But like, there's not a lot of jobs, and when you're not in the industry or whatever, there's like Stryker, Pfizer. There's a Target distribution center you can apply at. They take a lot of people, and banks. There's not much else to the average person. It's not like in the mix. So I got rejected by all those people. Applied them all. I even had some connections to some of them that I'd made throughout the few years. I got rejected. I don't know why. I'm a bad interviewer. I don't know. I'm just not good at it. I don't make a lot of good eye contact. So, and it was demoralizing. Like, and this is another thing I connect with people on. Like, if you've got a degree and you're applying for jobs and you're not getting them and you want to cry, guess what? I've been there. So, if you want to talk, we'll talk later. So, at that low point, everything's like, I can't figure out what the heck I'm going to do in life. So, a buddy of mine who I'd lived with in the past had a little mini video production company that really probably wasn't going anywhere, and he knew it. He and another friend of mine were getting together, and they wanted to do like kind of scrap that whole thing and start a new company, and they wanted to call it Rhino Media. And I was like, why do you want to call it Rhino Media? And there's a whole thing with Rhinos. The guy who had the other production company, he loved rhinos because the whole thing with rhinos is their eyesight's poor and their horns on their face make it so they can't see in front of them real well. And when they're running at top speed, they can't brake very quickly either. So when they're running at top speed, if a big, massive tree gets in their way or something, a lot of times they'll just crash into it. So it gives you a lot of cool metaphors about life and how, even though we can't always see what's in front of us, we're kind of like blindly running forward on faith of what we're supposed to be doing with our lives and just crashing forward. So I was like, that's a great meaning. I'm going to roll with that. I like that, Rhino Media. And one of the guys who's still a part of Rhino Media, he wanted to spell it R-Y-N-O. And I was like, that's so dumb. I'm not gonna do it if you do that. But if we spelled it R-H-I-N-O, I'm in. So I joined in. That was supposed to be kind of funny, but no one responded. So we met at a Pizza Hut, and Papa talked about it, kind of came up with what we want to do, and the idea is really simple, just photo, video, and with the kind of the big changes with DSLR camera technology, that made it so like that was possible to really invest in, you know, Canon 70s and 5D Mark IIs. Well, Mark II hadn't come out yet, but anyway.
What was the Michigan beer film shot with?
The Michigan beer film was shot almost entirely with 5D Mark II or 5D Mark III, but I did buy a Canon C100 toward the end of it, and we did a couple shoots with that. So I can't quite say it's all DSLR. But anyway, Rhino started, and basically it was just, you know, for me, it was like, I don't care what, nothing's gonna stop me from pouring everything I have into this, because this is something I can take and run with. And it was kind of a cool moment because there's a few months leading up to actually my wedding with my wife, which is another reason why she's so amazing, because she loved me when I had nothing. And not that I have riches now, but she loved me when there was like no job attached to my name and no one gave a crap about me, kind of thing. And she's very humble, and she doesn't care. You know, people write articles about what we're doing or the beer film. It doesn't impress her at all. So that's why she's great. But anyway, so we started Rhino, and it was very humble beginnings. It was like shoot weddings and do photo and video and kind of play around with that and just kind of find our way. And the guy who had the company previously, his name is Justin. He was kind of the boss at the time, not really on paper, but was like kind of implied, like he's done this before. He's has some experience, some of this stuff. And about 4 or 5 months into it, he was just kind of going off in different directions and seemed like he wanted to do something else with his life almost already. He's very entrepreneurial in his mindset. But I kind of just said, you know what? I feel like I have a lot of drive, and I have my business degree, and I know that doesn't qualify me to do anything special, but I really would like to put some of those skills in place. And like, this is something I think I could really sink my teeth into. I was like, what do you think about just letting me run this thing and you just step back? And it was really kind of that simple. And he was like, I feel the same way. So it's kind of how it got going. And from there, I dug into every book I could read, having mentors, and just applying every good principle I know about life and truths I believe about life and the way you should treat people and the way you should handle a client and always give people the benefit of the doubt and don't assume the worst, and you know, deliver things as you say you're going to deliver them, and do not ever, you know, if you promise something, follow through with that, even if it kills you. Learn the lessons along the way. If you make a mistake, don't do it twice. All those types of things I just like saturated our company with, and like how we think about things. And so yada yada yada, we got Rhino Media.
What I'm going to do is we've actually set up the audience really nicely here, Kevin. I'm actually open up to questions right now for you all. So I have more questions, but I want to kind of get you guys to chime in here, because now we're sitting at Rhino Media and Michigan Beer Film, and so you can ask specific questions. Any questions at this moment?
Julie.
Who was your first big client? Who was your first big client?
I don't know. I don't know if we even have a big client now. We got a variety. You can hold it. You got a lot of energy because you're in high school. You can hold that mic. I don't know. The first client, I have a good answer to that. So we were doing weddings and stuff, and then how we got into commercial stuff is not a huge thing, but we were like, we had some ideas for Taco Bob's. We were like, I think it'd be cool, we could kind of, and this is how naive we were, like, we should pitch that idea to Taco Bob's. I don't know who we talked to, but like, we can find their email or something. And so we just had this idea to do like a stand-up comedian who's dressed like a big taco, and we wanted kind of a heavy-set guy to be funny, and you know, just because he's a fat guy in a taco suit, whatever. But the guy who did it was a friend of ours, and he's a really good actor. And we said, we think it'd be cool to do like a stand-up comedian where he's like trying to tell jokes and they're not funny. And then it'd be like, that's not a funny taco. We have funny tacos. So we thought that idea was hilarious, and then we just pitched it to Taco Bob's, and our prices were dirt cheap at the time. So they were like, that sounds great, let's do it. So we made a commercial and like got a good response, and you know, gave us some enthusiasm and confidence that we could do it again. And so that's as naive as it started, that's how it started. Like, we got an idea, let's tell them. And our prices, I think we probably charged them like $500, which at the time was like, that's a good gig. So that's how we got into commercial work.
So you
know what I'm saying?
initiated it.
Yeah.
They didn't actually come to you. You went to them.
No one would ever come to us because we didn't have anything to come to. So it was just like, but we came with an idea. We came with like, and that's, you want to be careful. You don't want to come to people and say, hey, here's a good idea for your business. Because I personally kind of get annoyed when people do that. Like, you should do this. You know what I'm saying? To me, it's some social unawareness when you're coming at people like that. Like, okay, you don't even know my business. Don't try to tell me what I need to do. Not that I'm prideful too much on that, but you know what I'm saying. And I think we approached it kind of humbly and just said, hey, we love your product. I love the funny taco. We think it'd be kind of cool. You guys ever done a commercial? I didn't think so, so it just worked out. And then since then, we've had some big, like kind of spikes where we've had a big client jump or something. So another big one was, another thing that's happened in the last 5 years is like these crowdsourcing your video projects, and there's lots of sites that like facilitate that. And we got on one of them for a while, and we don't really do it anymore because they take too much time and not really worth it after a while. But when you're young, they'll promise like, hey, if your video gets picked, you get 10 grand or something. And that at the time is like, dude, that's still a good paying gig for something you could kind of execute quickly. But the Chicago White Sox were running one, and we won a competition by them. And so immediately, I don't go around saying like they're our client per se, but we've done work for the Chicago White Sox. It aired on national TV games, White Sox versus Yankees. People in Colorado saw it, had our name on it because it was part of this whole thing they're doing with crowdfunding the whole thing, or crowdsourcing the video project. So people were like calling and texting, I saw your commercial, and all over the country. So that's a huge thing, and I'm a big baseball fan. I hate the Sox, but it was cool to make spots for them. No offense, anybody. I'm a Tigers fan, so it was really hard to do it because I was like, I hate the Sox, but I want to win. So that was a big bump, and I think people all of a sudden like, dude, that Rhino, they made a spot for the Sox. That's cool. Like, that was a big talking point for a while. I would say up until the beer film really got going, it was still the thing that people always went back like, you did that spot for the Sox. That's awesome. So, and it ran all summer long in 2012 in WGN, all the Sox games. So that was really cool. And then now it's like, it's just cool to say, and I didn't say this before, but my funny little thing I like to say is when Rhino Media started, I was sleeping on a couch in a studio apartment with a friend, and like nothing to my name kind of thing. And to go around and see all these big cool things you could be a part of in Kalamazoo, and now like Bell's is come on. We do work for Bell's. I have a relationship with Bell's. They're like a client to me. Like, that's a national brand. I love their product. I love who they are. To think that they're a client of mine is pretty awesome. You know what I mean? So there's always those. I would just want to make a company that's like full of fun people that do great work and are committed to excellence, and then other people want to be a part of that too. So I just want to work with brands I like. So a lot of the breweries, I like working with breweries. We don't, I don't know, there's a lot of video production work out there to do work for like radiology clinics and stuff. And like, I'd do that if they ever came to me, but I don't get those clients. I get the clients that are like, kind of like me, and they want to do stuff like I want to do. So if you have a radiology clinic, I'll do a video for you or something. But
how many videos did you do last year?
Last year, I actually never counted our videos before, but we always do this thing at the end of every year. We just kind of do hey, let's take a look at the year. Let's see how we did with some of the things we said we want to do. Not that we don't talk about them throughout the year, but just a big year-end meeting. And I counted the videos that we did. And a rough estimate, we did at least 250, 260 videos, which is like 5 or 6 a week or something, 5 a week. Pretty awesome. And you don't think you're cranking them out that fast, but it's just unbelievable how things have grown. And so, yeah, that was a big, you said client, big client. So, sir, Daniel. Oh yeah, hold on, don't talk till that gets there. Got to maintain order in here.
What's your client mix look like geographically? How much is like right in Kalamazoo, Portage area, and how much is state, and how much is national?
I would say I should have this. I'm not a numbers guy. I should know this, but like generally, most of it's Kalamazoo right now. We do have some Michigan across the state kind of clients. We have some manufacturing companies like down in Indiana, over at Farmington, you know, kind of smatterings around. For the most part, we're very heavily centered Kalamazoo. One, because that's my goal. I kind of consider like the center of culture is like downtown. Like that's like where culture is, you know, we could put Rhino on the edge of town over on 9th Street or something, get a little strip mall, not strip mall, but you know what I'm saying, like a little business park or something. But I feel like we wouldn't have any cultural influence out there. Like if we're downtown, that's where everything kind of happens, and we can have an influence and kind of spread that, extend that out. So we're really heavy in Kalamazoo. We love developing Kalamazoo. One of our, like, you know, I'm big into having like a purpose for what you do and not just like, oh, we love to make fun videos. But like one of our big kind of underlying goals and things that would drive us is like, we want to make obviously people's work outstanding and show who they are and let, you know, their audience connect with who they are. And that's such a big part of today's economy and, you know, ideology of why people make purchasing decisions. So we are always about showing why companies do what they do, who they are as people, what are the values they care about, and that kind of thing. But for us, like we want Kalamazoo to look really good online. You know what I mean? Like I want when there's a young dude coming out of college, he's thinking about going to work for Stryker, Rubbermaid, or whatever, some of those new hot things happening, to just see a bunch of great video content about Kalamazoo and the businesses and go, this place looks great, this place looks relevant and hip, there's not a bunch of crappy videos out there, because that's really important to people. If they go and look up a company and there's like this video from even 5 or 6 years ago now and it's just kind of poorly done and the aspect ratio is like 4:3 and it just looks shoddy, you're like, I'm going to go to Ann Arbor, I'm going to go to somewhere else. So in my mind, that's like kind of one of our noble purposes, is like to make Kalamazoo really well represented online. So national clients, not a ton. I don't really know how to reach out that well to national clients because there's so many people that do what we do around the country. Unless you got a connection, I don't see a lot of merit in trying that hard to do that, especially with the whole thing with Rhino the whole time it's been in existence is it's about as much as I can handle at any given time. I can't really do much more to get more business because we're barely making it work. Like we're always figuring out as we go, okay? 250 videos in 1 year, that would have completely broke us in half the year before. And next year we'll probably put out 500 videos and they'll be great. But if we did 500 last year, it would broke us, you know what I mean? So I don't actually go out and get any business. I don't do any proactive reaching out. Rarely. If there's like somebody I really want to work with and they kind of seem to be hinting that they might be interested in something or might be looking like they're going to make a move and do something, I might say, hey, what about me? You know, like kind of like that, just as a fun thing almost. But I don't ever go out and sell. All I do is handle stuff that comes to us, which is super cool. And it's like God blessing, like I'm not even trying and this thing is like I can't contain it. So that's cool. I just try to manage our brand, make sure our people are top quality, good people, treat people right, and really excellent people. And my team is cool. My team is really great because they're young and they're coming out of college, like these two cats here, Nick and Dan. They're super talented, really nice guys. They're both pretty quiet. They're about the two quietest guys at Rhino, so they're not going to talk for the most part. They hate this. Sorry, guys. But they're very talented, and I like to attract talented people to us. And so we've had a lot of interns come through. Some kind of fizzle out. Some are kind of, they don't work out. Some, though, just come in and knock it out, and you're like, there's fantastic talent coming out of Western. They're attracted to us because we're putting out content that's solid, and they want to work for someone that's doing that kind of thing and with the times and updated technology and stuff. So anyway, took that way too far. Sorry. Sir.
What gave you the idea to do the Michigan Beer Film? And when you came up with that, what did you think it was going to do compared to what did it actually do?
Okay. So the idea for it, basically it was really simple. I had been thinking, I've always kind of questioned how much work is there in Kalamazoo for us to do? And it's kind of silly to think back how 2 years ago I was thinking, are we tapped out? Is there enough work to keep us afloat? And now it's like, yes, of course there is. But the idea was like, we kind of need to make our own products. I think that's the key to us growing beyond just a small little boutique thing. I think we need to make our own film, sell that, have photo products we do, and just like sell prints or books and just things that people might want to connect with. So that was like driving me, and I was thinking about that a lot. Like, what are things that we like a lot that we could do a film about? Or like just something that could be something you sell online and they can sell while you're sleeping. That's the dream. Make money while you sleep. So we're at our Park Trade Center studio, and it's just a little shantytown setup of an office, but people are starting to hear good things about us, and so we had starting to get some kind of higher end people in the community. And I'm like, most everyone on the planet everyone in Kalamazoo knows Don Jones from Habitat for Humanity, and so like Don Jones had heard about us, and they were interested in having us do like a capital campaign video. And one of the people in the meeting, I don't remember her name, she's not with them anymore, but she said, you know, you guys should do a video, you should do a thing with Bell's, because they're just doing this big expansion, and that would be cool. And I was like, that would be cool. Do you know them? Because I'd love to get a number or something. And she didn't have a number. So I thought, I stewed on that a little bit. I thought it'd be cool. But like, I was like, what if we just did a film about the whole state? I mean, this state's blowing up. What if we just did a film about the explosive nature of the industry and what's going on? And that was it. That was the whole impetus behind it. So I didn't have a plot. I didn't have anything other than like, that's how I want it to feel. That's the idea behind it. That's the kind of the log line of the film. Let's start shooting. And I had a connection with Greenbush because my father-in-law was really close with the guy who started it. And so he got me connected with them. And they were at a point where they're like, yeah, come on in. And the first shoot was such an embarrassment. Like, we forgot half this equipment, and it was stupid. If you know cameras and stuff at all, I forgot my tripod. All I had was a light stand that I had to spin my camera onto the, I don't know anything about this stuff. That's what I was saying earlier. My dad didn't teach me this stuff. Whatever the thing is, you thread the thing on. Help me out. What's that called? You guys don't know stuff either. All right. Anyway, kind of like that, nuts and bolts. So the shoot was just a mess. We ended up using one piece of footage from that shoot, but it got my relationship started with Greenbush. They loved how we handled it. I mean, and they were great because they were growing so fast. Every time we'd show up, there was something new happened. They busted out a new wall, and it was always like changing. So that was cool. And then what was the other part of your question?
What you thought it would be versus what it turned.
Yes. And so it ended up being what I pretty much felt like it should be. Like, it didn't change as far as like where it would go, but it really did kind of just come together as we went. And if you guys don't know, Nick and Dan, but Nick was like the main editor for the beer film over there. So Nick had a big hand in the feel and the style, but that's what was so cool, and kind of just like I felt like this guy just like fell like on our lap, because Rhino's growing so fast and all that stuff. I don't always have time to communicate big or fine details on a film project. So Nick, I gave him a couple things and said, I kind of want it to look like this. I need to see this and this and this. Give me something. Show me what we can do. And he made a couple little videos, and like, dude, that's perfect. And it was like, he had that kind of magic, like, this cat gets what I'm talking about, and I don't have to give him a lot of details. That's beautiful. And so I just said, I don't know who's going to edit the film yet. And I said, do you want to edit the film? And he's like, yeah. So I was like, all right, good. And that's what we did. And so we had a few planning meetings, and like, okay, here's all the stuff we've shot so far. What do we have? What else do we need to get to tie it all together? What's point A, what's point B kind of thing. And so that's really how it came out. And we were really happy with it. We knew it wasn't going to be like any expose or dirty, dark stuff and, oh, look what Larry Bell did. It was nothing like that. But it was just like, we're going to talk about the industry. There's going to be some challenges. And obviously there's oversaturation that people talk about a lot. Is that going to be a problem for Michigan? That type of stuff. But all in all, I felt like this is a craft beer fan movie. If you like Michigan beer, there's no reason you're not going to like this film. And that's what it was. And so that's kind of how it came out. So, yeah. Noel.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey.
Hi. So you're a creative guy.
Thanks.
I'm interested in finding out, how does the creative process work at Rhino? I mean, when you guys all get together, you get a new idea, somebody has to pitch it to you. Where do you go from there?
That's a good question. At different times in Rhino's life, it's very different. So 2 years ago, when it was 3 people, it was very much that, hey, client wants us to make a video. They said, come up with some ideas. Cool, let's get around the table, whiteboard, start throwing stuff with the whiteboard, do a very typical brainstorm type meeting. Throw everything on the board, nothing's dumb. And all right, let's erase the dumb stuff, that type of formula. Now, well, not now. There was a time where Rhino was growing really fast. I actually, I had to let a guy go for some personal reasons and stuff. And at the time, it was a good decision. I let him go, and that kind of got rid of my pre-production guy, and I took that on. And Rhino's growing really fast. That kind of, we really slowed down the collaborative, creative energy at Rhino. I still would pull people in and say, what do you think about this idea? And we'd kind of talk through things. A lot less, though, big creative meetings happened, though, for a while. And it was kind of like whatever came to my head when the client was talking is what we'd execute. And sometimes I hit it out of the park with a good idea. Sometimes it's like, I'm just not feeling anything. And then I'd go to my guy and go, do you have anything? Because I'm stuck. And honestly, all our client relationships, I would say, are pretty solid. Like I can't think of any, honestly, bad client relationship we have. So everyone's really happy with everything we've done, but I know internally we can do better. And the guy that I let go, I actually just rehired him recently after some conversations about things, and kind of, I'm a big believer in like second chances, and I'm like, I think you've changed. I think some of the things that were happening have been healed and repaired, and there's some good stuff going on. And so he's back, which is really exciting because he's super talented, and he was a big part of why we got good fast, I guess, for having no experience, because he brought a lot of experience to the table. So now we're back to having a lot more emphasis on collaboration, pulling people in. Hey, let's talk about different ideas for this project. Let's look at what's out there. What bag of tricks do we have to pull from? We don't get hinged on equipment too much. I never want to be in those production companies like brags about the equipment you have. I think that's kind of dumb. It's really about like what you bring to the table and the style you have and how you execute. Because really you can rent anything you want as long as you know what's out there. But we do have a lot of good equipment either way now. But not to brag, but no, I'm just kidding. So, I try to be real careful on what we buy and what we have. But so I think a big part of it is like we all absorb media, we all watch videos, and we all see what people are doing, and we try not to let our influences be ever like out of fear. Like, oh, did you see what they did? Oh, we need to do that, but better. Like we need to up our game. If that ever happens, and it does once in a while, like you kind of get that like, oh shoot, you see what? Because one big one we all saw, Founders Brewing Company put out a video like maybe 5 months ago or something, and it was a really well done video, pretty high end, and it was like, wow, that was a pretty sweet video. Who made that? And like, that was well done, and you go, good for you. But it makes you go, we need to step up our game a little bit. If that's what they're gonna do, and that's what, that kind of tone's being set for that type of production in Grand Rapids and stuff. And we definitely think like we can be kind of the most sought after creative visual media company in the state and beyond. We're not trying to say like we're better than everybody now, but we definitely think we can grow to that level where people are like, that company Rhino, they're just solid. They are great guys. They treat you well. They do what they say they're going to do. They execute great ideas, and everything's just on point. You know what I mean? I think a big problem in a lot of creative, and Maestro is a great example of a great creative company. It's cool that we're here, but like, there's so many creative companies people want to start. Oh, they make promises, and here's all the stuff we're going to do, and then they never deliver. And it's like, that's why it's so hard, and you get a bad rap. I actually had a lot of that with the beer film, and the outset was and I'm not dogging them at all, but the Brewers Guild in Michigan, I asked them like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this film. What do you guys think about working with me on it or something? And I'm always really careful about that. I don't like to bug people. I'm always like, let me try to do it on my own. Let me build some credibility before I go to you. But at that point, we'd done some shoots and said, could we maybe get some press passes to like Winter Beer Fest? And they're like, after like 2 weeks of no response, they were like, yeah, we can. Here's the thing. a lot of people said they're going to do a film about Michigan beer, and they come to the festivals and drink our beer, and no one ever made a movie. And so they were kind of real jaded to that. And we had to deal with that a lot in the front end, because just that's the name of the game a lot of times for creative companies. Like they have all this talk, and they talk, and they don't deliver, you know? So that's a big part of like Rhino values. Like, we deliver on our promises. We don't say things we're going to do if we don't do them. I'm being like a politician, and I totally went into 5 other things than what you said, but anyway. Yeah, I think a big part of who we are, though, is just always growing and getting better. So our creative process right now is getting a lot better. It's going to be a lot better in the future. It's going to keep getting better and be refined. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. That was a pretty bad answer. I'm sorry.
One more question, and I'll kind of conclude things. But Dale's over here for a passage there. So I was wondering what.
Hey, you wait till that microphone gets there.
I was wondering, when you get 5 or 6 or 7 creative people together, I know in my company I've had a board, and it's very difficult to resolve all the ideas. How do you resolve the differences, legitimate differences, and we're trying to design a website right now. We have 17 different ideas. How do you resolve those?
So I'll get around to that. One of the things that's kind of a core value that I don't preach a lot, but it's understood at Rhino. You know, I listen to like podcasts and read books and Jim Collins and Seth Godin and stuff like that. I don't know who said it, but I remember hearing that, like, I think it was IBM, they have this thing where if you come to the table and you're an executive in this meeting or whatever, if you disagree with what's being said, you have to voice that disagreement. You can't sit idly by and sabotage a project because you don't think it's going to work. That's wrong. And so, at least on the level of like the guys that have been with me for a long time, they know that I expect that of them. Don't sit there with your mouth shut. If you have a problem, we're going to talk about it, put it all on the table, and argue passionately about our idea. But the bottom line is going to come down to who's making the call. That's me on most things. Not that I overuse that power by any means. I'm very much about like enabling people to just make decisions. I mean, hopefully these guys would attest. I just say, go ahead and do it. I like it, good and cool. Like, I try to give a lot of empowerment to the team, but ultimately they know that my leadership style is like, okay, we're going to talk about this. We're going to take the input in, and I'm going to make a decision. If there's no consensus, I'm going to make that decision, be a strong leader, and then you guys have to roll with it, because that's what it takes. You can't sit back. You argued your point. Cool. Here's what we're doing. It works well for us. I'm big on feedback. I mean, I ask my team all the time, how do you think things are going? Is there anything you could be doing better with your job? Are the things I could be doing better? Does this meeting suck? Do you think I'm doing a good job leading it? Which, you know, so I'm big on feedback and just being honest and transparent. I try to keep pride and egos out of the equation, although we're human beings, so that's virtually impossible. But the more you can fight at that kind of animal, that whole pride ego thing, and creative stuff, I mean, everybody thinks their idea is the best. We know that. Everyone knows that. One of my right-hand guy pretty much is a guy named Jeremy. And him and I disagree. We agree socially on the things about life almost 100% of the time. Creatively, we're almost always not in agreement. But we talk about it, and we just keep that communication open. And just the bottom line is your team has to know that you love them and you appreciate them and you respect them enough to agree when they're right or when you're going to go their way, and disagree when they're wrong. And then if they love and respect you back, they'll be okay with it, and they'll know that what you're doing is for the good of the team and for the best for everybody. And that's what I always say. I actually got in a big, heated talk with Jeremy last night after work. Everyone left, and we just I was like, but don't you see, just please, the final thing, we totally hugged it out, it was all good, but I said, just please know, just always assume the best of me. Don't think that I'm trying to, put you off in the corner or something, or marginalize your input on this project. Please don't think that. Just know that I'm trying to give someone else a chance, or you know what I'm saying? So the relationships we have are really strong, and that gives a lot of flexibility to be very real, I guess. I don't know if that really helps, but that's how I answered your question. So.
Still have all the problems you started out with, but
Yeah.
you resolved them.
Okay.
What you just explained, Kevin, was the difference between personality conflict and task conflict.
Yeah.
So you actually, don't have any personality conflict with Jeremy, but the
No, I
task
love the guy.
conflict is that it's how you get something done, what the end product should look like. So
Yep.
task conflict actually is pretty healthy. Come out with certain things. You actually just gave some good anecdotal evidence on that.
Okay.
You said.
Can I tag one more piece on that? Another thing for me with just conflict in general is that when you're open and honest with each other and conflict arises, I think conflict is normal. I think if you're not having kind of little conflicts here and there all the time, you're being fake most likely, or you're hiding your real feelings, because two people together are obviously not going to agree on everything. If you do, that's crap. You're lying to yourself. Or you're not digging hard enough to get to the problem or to get to the root. So my thing that I talk to the team about as much as I can is like, conflict is normal. It's expected. So don't be upset when it happens. Let's just look at how we can go through it together. And actually with clients too, that's a whole other deal. I'm not going to go in a long spiel on this, but for me, I've actually found that the clients that there's been a problem with, we've had some conflict, you'd think, oh, there's a conflict, they're gone, or they're not going to work with us anymore. If you handle the conflict well, they'll never leave, because they saw you at the worst. They saw when you made a mistake, but we owned up to it. We fixed it. We fixed the problem. We handled it with grace and compassion, or patience, kindness, all those things. And now they're like, why would I ever go to someone else? Like, you guys, I saw you mess it up. That's what you want. Somebody's gonna not ditch your project or just throw their hands up and call you names and whatever, raise your voice. I've had guys yell and swear at me, and like my team is I diffuse the situation, and now they'll never, they come back to us with 15 more video projects, So it's amazing. Having patience and yeah, that's it.
Well, the trust factor ends up playing a lot into that. So
Yeah.
we're gonna wrap up here. Right? Kevin will stay and actually
Did you
hang
say
out with
sing?
you guys.
Did you say sing?
Sing and play the guitar, right?
No, I'm not doing that.
Okay, next time, right? All right. But some of the things that you might want to ask him, he didn't allude on, is that I wanted to bring back the why we talked about the early part of his life in terms of the management piece. And he's brought a lot of that in terms of Rhino, learning all the time and then teaching as well. So if you ask him, okay, what the crash on mantra is, he'll actually go into the operating principles, and a lot of that deals with his previous life before starting Rhino, and where he got that, as well in terms of creating a good environment with the clients. The photo shops are actually fun to be with and not very stressful, and that's actually different.
Oh, yeah.
The value proposition for you as compared to other people that want to do that. And then the crowdfunding piece, okay, in terms of the Michigan Beer Film. So that's how you actually were able to get over the last part of getting that year-and-a-half project done. So a lot of things you can talk to him about, one-on-one. So that ends up being there. But I want to end with two questions, and then you guys can have at it with him one-on-one. One is, what would you do differently? Right? You can answer that in 2 minutes. That would be great. And then, how can the Kalamazoo startup community, help Rhino Media?
Okay, 2 minutes. The question was, what would I do differently? Okay, I don't always know how to answer these questions. I don't think like that a ton. I just think I always am doing things differently. I start with the assumption that I did it wrong the first time, but I didn't blow it up. It wasn't terrible. I'll fix it. I always think about fixing it all the time. So doing it differently, I don't always know how to answer. It's not like one big huge mistake, or I think maybe, I don't know what I wrote down, but I think it was something like I would have paid more attention to clarifying roles and things up front, and
writing it down.
Yeah, writing things down. That's part of the numbers thing. I like to keep it all hovering around in my mind, but getting it on paper and making sure things are communicated clearly. The more we grow, the harder it is to make sure all the information is disseminated to everyone and people don't feel left out, and the right hand needs to know what the left hand is doing. That was a pretty complicated move I just pulled. I was proud of that. I did that. Yep. So, you know, that whole part of it's important, and you know, I don't know. I don't have any. Like I said, my thing is
values and beliefs. You write those down.
Yes. Having those values and beliefs kind of written down. Like I said, it's almost, I think about it as like sometimes like when your company's new, it's almost like you're in the progression of like oral language, written language, and then we have the friggin' printing press or whatever, and now we're in, you know, that's what it's like. It's like we're telling stories all the time, writing on the cave. That's how we do stuff. And over time, then we write it down on a piece of paper and hand that out, and then it just goes along the whole, you know how that whole thing went. But
cruise.
Yeah. So what was your other question?
And last one, how is the Kalamazoo Startup community able to help you?
I have no idea how to answer that question. It sounds weird. I don't want to sound like I'm a hero, but like I never know how to ask. I don't ask for help a lot. I don't know how to say like, here's what you can do to help me. So, what do you mean by that?
When we talked about it, you actually said you wanted people to start cool companies.
Oh yeah. That's an answer. I'll do that. So, for me, like, what the startup community can do to help me, sounds a really weird way to say this, but I would just encourage everyone to, it's a line from an Avett Brothers song, but decide what to be and go be it. Like, don't sit there and just wait for your moment to happen American Idol style. Like, do it. Like, just start doing it, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be prideful. Just go about your thing and start doing it to the best of your ability, because there's never been a better time to do something that you love and make money off doing it. And if your product's good or your service is good, it'll grow. If not, don't be too prideful and say, well, why doesn't anyone like me? Screw the world. That's their fault. Like, no, it's your fault. Fix it. Figure out why it's not working. Not to look at you right then. I don't even barely know you, but like, if it's not working, there's a problem with you. Don't blame the world. Fix it. And if your service isn't picking up any traction, maybe there's some tweaks you can make. Maybe ditch it altogether, because maybe you're not good at that. Just don't look for reasons to not do it. Just start doing it. And the more we cultivate that culture in Kalamazoo, the more good things can come. And I'm telling you, 4 years ago I had zero influence in society. I mean, other than the high school kids, I had zero influence in society. Not that I have a ton now, but now it's like, I'm on a committee for downtown Kalamazoo, whatever. It's like the marketing events committee, which sounds like something, but it's just like, these people want my input and they listen when I talk. And that's crazy, because a few years ago I feel like I was the same guy, but I was sleeping on a couch and no one cared what I had to say. And so when you just go after something and be committed to your beliefs and be committed to who you think you are, people care and they listen. So I would just say, go at it and don't make excuses for why you can't do it. Just start doing the thing you need to do. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say you can do to help me in some weird way. I want someone to make a restaurant that's all bacon themed. I want to do it, but I don't think I'm going to do it. So I'll do that.
Let's give it up for Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you.